take responsibility for your life and allow yourself to be your true self, to be authentic, to spread your wings and learn to fly.
Sonja Piontek is here from Germany. We're deeply honored and privileged to have her here. And literally within a few moments of sort of pre-prep and introduction, she is charismatic. She told us about being a global speaker, keynote speaker, prize-winning author, and all around she has this sort of colorful kaleidoscope of her life, which we're going to share today. Sonja, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me, Tariq.
You know, it's just so amazing. We just met today, and I think sometimes people meet for a reason, and I'm so happy that we were able to. Sonja, tell us about what is the most stunning thing that you've done recently?
Well, if we put the focus on recently, I would say I just crossed the Namib Desert on foot. So I led an expedition of 17 women from 12 nationalities to walk through the oldest sand desert in the world in order to raise funds for women in war zones. And I have to say, when we first set off, there was a certain element of hesitation and doubt if we were even going to be able to do it. And I'm fit, but I'm not a top athlete, very clearly not. But 17 ladies on a mission to really do something good. We walked through the desert. We did it. And after 5 very long, exhausting, amazing, beautiful, challenging days, we arrived at the Atlantic Ocean. And it was such an amazing feeling of achievement. Not so much just for the sports achievement of having done it, 144 kilometers. It was more a mental, emotional achievement of having gone on that journey together.
I think it also brings all of you together. It brings a sense of camaraderie and basically doing something meaningful. I think a very dear friend of mine, she took 13 breast cancer survivors to the South Pole and went through the Antarctic. And that was symbolic. And I think this kind of symbolism is so important in the world today, because we're so busy running around doing stuff,
making money and collecting titles, and
totally, indeed, and very sort of ego-driven, and humanity and authenticity becomes quite lacking, and that scarcity of authenticity is what we're looking for. And in our brief conversation, I can already feel that. Tell us your backstory. Where did it all start? Where did little Sonja come from? And I'm sure you have a very colorful, meandering life.
So if my life has been one thing, it's never been boring. I was born in Munich, an identical twin. When we were 12 years old, my parents separated and my mom fell in love again with a woman. So all of a sudden, during a time when things were a bit less tolerant as they are now, we had mom, daughter in our house.
Interesting.
And it was a beautiful experience, but it was also challenging. And I have to admit that at times it was embarrassing. But I soon realized that what I got given there is a gift. And today I can wholeheartedly say that I have 3 parents. And it's beautiful. It's wonderful. I then went on to study overseas. I've lived in 6 countries so far, lived in Indonesia in a Muslim family with 4 brothers, and we're still close like this today. So I'm anak 3B, which means child number 3B. I started my career with BMW, not in my home country where the headquarters are, no. I went all the way to New Zealand and started my career there as a young 21-year-old girl doing an internship and getting a permanent job offer. And one thing I've always had somehow in me is the ability to see opportunities and the courage to say, I'm going to give this a go. And I bet that there are a lot of people out there that have equal amounts, if not more opportunities, but most people don't have the guts it takes to say, yes, I'll try this out. And I'll trust myself that this will be good and beautiful.
But even if it's not good and beautiful, I think the journey, the discovery process is part of the fun. What was the engine inside you that gets you going and going to literally to the other side of the world, down under to New Zealand, which I haven't been to, but I hear is beautiful and clean, and you don't have any disease, and then those kinds of things.
It's pretty damn good.
Yeah, but also it's a bubble, and when you're in that bubble, you don't see the rest of the world. But and we actually now live in lots and lots of media bubbles and country bubbles. We here in Dubai are living in a bubble, and it really
totally,
is.
yeah,
and
totally.
There's a bubble within a bubble, and things like that. So living in that little bubble at the age of 21, what were the insights? What were you learning then?
So what fascinated me in New Zealand right from the beginning is the way people deal with each other, the camaraderie amongst each other. For example, I've got a group of friends and we go off-road motorcycling quite regularly. Now, in most of the countries that I know well and that I've lived in, especially Asia, I've lived in China, I've lived in Singapore, there's a very clear distinction between classes. Now, in New Zealand, our group of bikers, we've got a very simple farmer there. We've got a multimillionaire there. And it's not about what's your status, no, it's about what's your passion. And we're all friends. And we share joy together. And that's something that I love about the Kiwis. They're authentic. They are genuine. They look at the person and not at the status.
Moving forward, before we really do a deep dive into Voices of the Future and I get your vision of where we're going, tell us a little bit more about your life. Any great successes? Any spectacular failures, heartbreaks? How has life treated you to really build the scars that really mature you and make you who you are?
So basically the first few decades were what felt like the sunny side of life. It was an upward spiral of success, of corporate promotions, of an executive career with one of the big global companies. I was sent to Singapore as the director of marketing for BMW Asia. I was driving a fancy car. It's sort of tick, 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 tick. From the outside, my life was phenomenal. And it actually was. But I had in me this urge of, I've got wings and I'm not flying high enough. It was great, but I knew there was more. So I took a very bold decision and left the corporate world. Now, all my friends in Germany, and Germany is a very safety-oriented, conservative background, everyone said, you cannot leave BMW. All my friends in Asia said, wow, that's going to be great. You're going to be super. And then they asked, what are you going to do? But that wasn't the main thing. So they were really supportive. So I left. And in the years following my departure from the corporate world, that upward spiral continued. And I was like, wow, I was winning one award after the next. I was constantly featured in the media. I wrote books and it was just like, wow, wow, wow. And then 2020 hit, and it hit with brutal force. Within 3 months, I lost my unborn child, my partner, and based on COVID, all my business engagements. It was tough. I was at rock bottom. And I had never experienced anything like this before. Never cried so much in my life. I'd never experienced vulnerability. It took some time to get through it. And it took some accepting that Superwoman wasn't Superwoman. And that also my life had taken a turn that I would not have chosen at that time. I very consciously made the decision at some point to stop that mourning, that suffering, and regain my strength, regain my life, my spirit, and really work myself out of that valley of tears. And today, it's like as if I had been a phoenix that had basically burned down to a pile of ashes and had then grown tiny little wings that were still a bit funny and scruffy, and then those wings started to grow bigger, and still Phoenix didn't quite know how to use them. And now I'm a very confident, happy, well-balanced bird again that flies very high. And I'm even at a point where I'm grateful for what happened. Yes, there are scars, but they're beautiful, and I've become a much better, happier, more beautiful person.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It really means a lot.
Thank you.
You know, the power that you just demonstrated in terms of sharing your vulnerability, and it is true leadership. Because when I talk about leadership and I talk about authenticity, I speak about my vulnerability, I speak about my failures. And I've had several failures in my life, and some spectacular and some less so. But I think the one that I'd like to share with you, I was 23, 24 years of age, and people who are from my background, we have to be a doctor, lawyer, accountant, you know, they have to be that, just like in Germany. You know,
fit that bill, yep.
Absolutely, you have to tick the box. And my father at that point in time couldn't afford to send me to, I was at Oxford and others. And I ended up doing accountancy. How exciting, absolutely. I am not a bean counter. I cannot be an accountant. But my dad said, no problem.
That box.
Absolutely. I said, no problem, son. You know, you're smart, because I was always successful and good at my school and good at my sports and et cetera, et cetera. And for the first time in my life, I failed my accountancy exam. I failed at anything. And then I just didn't know how to react. And in that failure, I didn't want to be a burden on my parents. I wasn't able to show myself in society. I said, nobody will ever marry me. And that's when I started losing my hair. And literally it was coming out like that. And I said to my parents, I said, you gave me love, you gave me kindness, you gave me everything. The one thing you didn't teach me is how to fail. We were in a high-performance environment. We had to succeed and had to excel and had to perform. And
failure was not an option.
Failure wasn't an option. And therefore, when I failed, I collapsed, and then I had to rebuild myself. Now, just like you said, and it resonated with me, it was like a phoenix for me. I was literally... I came to Dubai, was my very first job. And then I started from there, from nothing. And I built myself up, and I, did all the wonderful things that I did. But it was a big catalyst. I learned more in my failure than I ever learned in my successes.
Isn't it funny how people say, and as I was going through my toughest time, obviously the odd person says, you're going to be so grateful for it one day. When you're in that state, that's not what you want to hear.
No, absolutely. And I remember I used to take a night bus at sort of 4 a.m. in the morning, but between 3:30 and 4, I was working in this sleazy nightclub. and I used to come out and I used to sit at a place called Carnaby Street in London, in Lower Regent Street. And I remember I had a dustman, I had a prostitute, I have a drug addict, I have a drug pusher, and an accountant. Failed accountant. Failed accountant. And we were all sitting there, and all I remember was a cup of tea and 2 slices of bread. And that to me was meaningful. And there I developed humility. There I developed humanity. There I stopped judging anybody. I always deal with people with respect and kindness, because I had an assistant professor of philosophy there also, because he was broke too. So it doesn't matter whether you're a PhD at university, he just couldn't make ends meet and stuff. Where I go with this is when I'm mentoring students, when I'm talking to on my keynotes and stuff, I actually talk about the fact that you need to be in that space at least sometime in your life.
And it's empowering.
It is.
It's empowering not to be Superman or Superwoman.
And once you've seen the lows, then you're not scared of the lows anymore. It's when you're scared, oh my God, I might fail, then that fear of failure is actually a bigger hesitation to take big challenges in life than to have, and I have actually what I call the 5 F's of failure. You'll enjoy this. It's fail fast, fail frequently, fail frugally, failure is not fatal, and fail forward. Fail forward.
Ooh, nice. I love that one.
And the 6th bonus failure is failure is a good F word. So I actually have 6 F's of failure.
Nice.
And,
love it.
And if we can, demystify failure and this part of the world, I've worked and lived in Singapore, exactly the same thing. I worked in the communities. I went back to Harvard and I studied there. Failure isn't an option.
It's not an option, no, and it's so embarrassing. It's like, no, it's life. It's life.
Yeah.
Pick
Indeed.
yourself up again and shine.
Yeah. So fast forward to shining. You are absolutely glowing at the moment. So
Wow.
congratulations for that.
Look at those lights, how they make me shine.
I know. No, it's the inner glow. It's the inner glow, Sonja.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
But in that inner glow, I mean, you obviously written a book recently, and you were doing a keynote. What's the book about?
So it's a book that I would not have considered writing at least 3 years ago. It's about mindfulness, a word that I had never used.
But a lot of people think it's just soft and fluffy. And does it actually mean anything?
Yeah. So I have now written a bestseller on mindfulness. It's a workbook. It's hit the German equivalent of the New York Times bestseller list, the Spiegel bestseller list. And it's basically a book that helps you understand who are you. It's called Me, My Workbook on Mindfulness. And it's about who are you? Where have you come from? What has happened in your life? What do you need? What makes you happy? And how do you get there? And it's a powerful book. It's not about put your feet on the ground, light some incense and say hallelujah, kumbaya to the universe.
Well, that's fun.
No. For me, that doesn't work. So for me, mindfulness is really about understanding who you are and having the responsibility to turn your life into something beautiful, because your life is one of the biggest, if not the biggest gift you got given. And it's your responsibility to turn it into something beautiful. Beautiful can also mean successful. So for me, mindfulness as an end result also means to be successful, because there's nothing against making money and being successful.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And success is great, and we can enjoy it. It gives us freedom. It gives us wings. It gives us wings to fly.
And it gives us freedom to help others.
Indeed.
I do a lot of pro bono coaching
Yeah.
because I have so many paying clients that pay me well enough that I can say, hey, there's one person who now needs my help.
Right.
And I'm gladly offering that help pro bono.
Okay, brilliant. Your keynotes, what are they about?
Mindset. So I call it the Phoenix Mindset, and it's about empowering people, about unleashing excellence. It's about getting through times of transformation, not with fear and crumbled, but with grace and with this open mindset of let's explore, let's do it. And I mainly speak for the big international firms, companies. I speak at big international conferences. And I just love to inspire people and share with them tools that they can use to really make their life better.
You know, I speak at, I've done about 500 keynotes myself, and I sit on boards, and I sort of sit on a table like this with chairmen and board members and so on. And they ask me, what's my job here? And write my scope of work, and I'm basically, I said, I have only one job. I said, what's that? I said, mindset shift. All I have to do is move your mind a little bit.
But it's not just only, that's the big one.
Indeed. But mindset shift is my primary function so that I can get them there. Yeah. I have a phrase that I use, and I call it an immune system, because we all have our immune system, an immune system that anything that comes from outside, we block it and to protect ourselves as our survival mechanism. Corporations have immune systems, and individuals have immune systems, and in a business life. So therefore, they don't want to shift. They don't want to actually
change is dangerous.
Change is very dangerous, and the amygdala clicks in, and your survival mechanism. What do you tell a CEO, a board, in terms of how and why they should have that mindset shift? Because in the world of transformation, as a futurist, I see this all the time. They just don't shift fast enough, and it's too late.
They don't shift fast enough. They don't shift big enough. And I think what they need to understand is the power in having people's minds open to the beauty of transformation and change. And it is something where, yes, you do need to take people by the hand, and you need to lead them through these initial wobbly steps of, oh my God, this is all new. But if you manage to take people on a road of letting their fears drop and seeing the opportunity the power that change and transformation can bring, then you can really make big impact in the companies.
Say something to me that would help me change where I am about something. I mean, what kind of story or what kind of tool or methodology do you use?
So one very simple one is the chocolate rule. I love chocolate, and it's something I invented in Singapore. So when I first moved to Singapore, I had a very diverse team. One thing where they were, however, all the same was whenever I came up with an idea, they all said, "Oh, cannot." At first I thought, yeah, that's something cultural. And then I realized any new idea was, "Oh, cannot." So I realized that there was a mindset issue. And I wanted transformation to happen. And obviously there's hundreds of books and courses and theories and all sorts of methods that you can use to get that mindset transformation going in a team. I wanted this to be a lot of fun. So I invented the chocolate rule. It's very simple. The moment someone shared an idea and someone else said, "Oh, cannot," that person had to immediately go down to the supermarket, buy chocolate for the team.
Okay.
I was in heaven. For the next few weeks, we had so much chocolate in the team. And then something happened. One of the girls, during a meeting, when another idea was brought up, said, "I'm not going to say no. I'm sick of buying chocolate. Let me just ask a question. Who can we ask for help?" And I said, "Hallelujah, we're there now." Because what I'd always tried to get them to is to understand that they don't need to say, "Yes, we'll do it." And they can be scared. And it's totally normal to be intimidated, to be hesitant, to be totally overwhelmed. But don't go no. Because the moment you say cannot, your mind totally closes down every opportunity, every thought process. But if you leave it open for, "Wow, that's interesting. Let's explore. Who can we ask for help? How could this work?" Then you open up a universe of opportunities. And that's the magic. And I've since introduced that chocolate rule to many of my coaching clients. And the beauty is they're all sharing the same experience. First, chocolate consumption goes up, then innovation goes up. And it's such an easy way to introduce a transformative mindset switch in a very easy and fun way.
Just this morning, I was talking to a group, and I was talking to them about what is called the institutional yes. It is an Amazon story, where in the early days of Amazon, you were not allowed to say no. Any idea was welcome. And you'd rather do a new idea and fail than not do it at all. So you had to say yes. And if by any chance there has to be a no, then the person saying no has to write a big memo and a big notice board and send a message to everybody. And after one or two no's, anybody doing that, you feel like a jerk. Like, I'm saying no when everybody else is saying, well, we should be doing things. So what Bezos was trying to do was to create a yes culture and to create an innovation culture and demystify failure. So there was this little guy, he kept on coming back again and again. He said, we should have a web service. He said, well, we're in the e-commerce business and we're in books and stuff. What is this web service? But we have a lot of servers out there and we could use that. We can have a web service. And he kept on coming back, and nobody could say no because there wasn't really a reason to say no. Okay, write a business plan and bring it forward. And that was the birth of Amazon Web Service, which became a $1 trillion company. 85 to 90% margin made Amazon what it is. And the only reason it happened because you couldn't say no.
Yeah.
And
I said the power of just leaving that space open for a yes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that any and every stupid idea needs to be pursued. There are things where you just need to say, it doesn't make sense. But give it a go. Sure. Explore.
Yeah. And I think it was about creating that culture of innovation, creativity, tolerance for failure, experimentation, all of those variables. I'm very big on truth and trust and ethics.
Same here.
What are your thoughts on that in terms of business? Because we have such a trust deficit in the world today.
We do.
We can't trust our media. We can't trust our institutions.
We cannot trust our business partners.
Yeah.
And you know what? We can. So I very consciously choose to work with people that have a handshake culture. And there are an incredible amount of amazing people out there that you can do business with on a trust basis. Yes, for auditing reasons, you need certain contracts, and that's
Yeah,
totally cool.
Which is fine, yeah.
Yeah, and that's legit. But when I meet a person, I know within a very short time, do I want to do business with that person based on our values, on the energy, on the trust. And I would say 95% of the time I've been right. And it's just a different way of doing business when you can look someone in the eyes and know we'll get through whatever comes up together. Because in the end, it's always a cooperation. You can't do things on your own. And if there's mistrust, how are you ever gonna thrive if you don't have that basis?
Yeah. I totally agree with you, and I'm a very trusting person. I always start with trust before I can not trust people. Unfortunately, I've been screwed several times, and
it does happen.
It happens
Haven't
regularly.
we all? Haven't we all?
I would go beyond that, Sonja, and I'm talking about trust and ethics when it comes to, let's say, artificial intelligence. We're talking about...
Ooh, that's interesting,
Yeah, basically AI without ethics, robotics without a manifesto of how we use robotics, with all that's going on around us at this moment in time. Drones were being created to help humanity. Drones are being used to kill. And to me, that shouldn't happen. History repeats itself. We are not learning a damn thing. So how do you infuse and link two mindsets here, that sort of sense of the trust and ethics in every single thing that we do? Can we build that into our algorithms? Can we build that into our thinking? Can we build that into our day-to-day life? That we are, and I go through a lot of trauma if I have to change a decision or something like that, because for me, that human element is really strong. How do you talk to people about trust, truth, and ethics when it comes to technology and stuff like that?
I think the most important thing here is to understand that every single one of us has a certain level of responsibility. And yes, one could always say, yeah, but those need to sort it out. The governments, the big companies. No, every single one of us has the responsibility to lead by example and to do whatever is in their might to do the right thing. And yes, there will always be bad people, unfortunately.
True.
But the more good people there are, the more people there are that lead with ethics, with trust, with authenticity, the better a place the world will be.
Okay. We're talking to Sonja Piontek, who is a charismatic speaker, author, leader, keynote speaker, and she's talking to us about her life. We're going to now move into what I call the rapid fire question. And Sonja, quick questions, quick answers, so that it helps you, just go in there. Should parents be worried about their children in terms of education and development with all of the AI and WhatsApp and things like that? Short answer.
No, but they should support them the best way possible.
Okay. Should our leaders who are basically making most of the decisions, be worried about AI and WhatsApp and the youth that's coming through, because their positions are changing and their vulnerability is growing? How do they overcome that? First answer, and then how do we overcome that?
So I wouldn't say they should be worried. They should be aware, and they should really dive deep to better understand.
Not worried? I would be surprised. I'm surprised you're saying that, because every single senior executive, CEO, board member I speak to, anybody who is north of 55 is worried.
But the question wasn't, aren't they? The question was, should they be?
And I question, all right, so let me then rephrase that question. Actually, no. Should they be worried? And because they're not familiar with a lot of technologies and they're not comfortable with that, and therefore they are scared.
Yep.
What do they need to do to overcome that fear?
I think they need to really get the right people, and that might be decades younger, generations younger, to coach them, to mentor them, and to get them into to experience that world, so that they can see that they don't need to be worried as long as they understand what's going on.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because we have introduced what we call shadow youth boards, so below the age of 25.
Nice.
And they're sitting literally on the shoulder of some of the senior board members, and they are sort of like 40 years apart in terms of their age. But you'd be surprised how much new stuff that they are coming in with. And the interesting thing, and the reason why it's working now, is that, and not a few years ago, is that technology is changing so fast that the elders are actually scared. Therefore, they need to find a way to connect, because always I say that until you know that the cost of not changing is bigger than the cost of changing, you don't change.
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree.
So basically, these young people, and the other thing is that they are not threatened by the 23-year-old coming and sitting there. They're just a geek.
Yeah. A kid.
A kid. Yeah. So fine, kid can tell me I have kids, so you can do that. And I think every single company now should actually have a youth board, a young board, which mentors and reverse mentors and mutual mentors, 360-degree mentoring within that. The world is going through a big tectonic shift with the wars, with a lot of shifts and changes going on. Are you hopeful? Do you feel good about stuff? And what do we need to have to be hopeful?
So yes, there's a lot of trauma happening in the world at the moment, but I am hopeful because I've lived in 6 countries. I've met people from so many different cultures, countries and backgrounds, and the amount of beautiful souls out there is incredible. So yes, I am hopeful.
If you were to put a message in a bottle and somebody finds it, say, in 2033, and it's a message that you're giving to them today about how you see that future, what would that be?
I truly hope that we learn to take responsibility for our lives, this beautiful planet, and what we can turn this into.
If we are celebrating today your 100th birthday, you're not even, ouch, you're not even halfway there, and by the time you get to 100, you'll live to 120.
Probably,
because things
There's
will...
some support that we don't know about yet.
Indeed. But so when you're sitting there at 100, and I come there to celebrate with you, what are we celebrating?
Life. We'll celebrate life.
And what is life? I mean, life is a very... generic statement. What is life?
We'll celebrate moments of happiness, moments of realizing that life isn't always great, that we've overcome our dark spaces, that we've got scars. We will compare scars and say, do you remember this one, how that happened? And we'll celebrate the fact that we have become beautiful human beings that took responsibility for their lives, for their mindfulness, for the happiness of themselves and others.
Any big regrets in life that you would like to, you're young enough to be able to sort it out, but any big regrets that you may have missed out, you'd like to go and achieve?
I might have spent too much time in a superficial environment, sort of chasing titles and monetary things rather than focusing on what's really important. And I could have started that earlier, but at least I've started that now.
Okay. Over the next 10 years or so, and I call it the transformation decade, more change is going to happen in the next 10 years than the previous 1,000, let's say, at least, if not more. What's your 10-year plan, if any?
The good thing is I do not have a plan. I have the commitment to myself and to this gift that I got given to make the most out of it and to seize opportunities, to be there for others, to help others grow and not be guided or limited by a 10-year plan. No. Okay.
What's your view on technology, all the new technologies that are coming in and really changing the world in many ways, how it's manifesting itself, versus humanity and our human elements, and technology versus humanity? Where do you sit on that?
So what's happening on the technological side is mind-blowing. It's phenomenal. It's at times overwhelming because there's so much happening. And what I think is important is in that time of transformation to really put a huge emphasis on not losing the human side and really having a big focus on the human side so it can balance off the technological advantages and developments that are happening at the moment.
My view to share with you is that the more technological we become, the more human we need to become.
Yes, fully agree.
And because anything that can be digitized will be, because it'll be a million times faster and a million times cheaper.
Yeah, and that's great.
Yeah, and that's brilliant because it's a tool and that's what technology does for us. But anything and everything that cannot be digitalized. Love, compassion, harmony, heart, soul, hugs, spirit, common sense, judgment, listening. All of these things, critical thinking, imagination, creativity, instinct, all of these things will be a million times more valuable.
Oh, yes.
And to me, that authenticity and humanity is what differentiates us. And that's what I'm focusing on and trying to make something happen.
Beautiful.
Sonja, as we come towards the end, is there anything that you'd like to share that we may have missed in our conversation? Anything that we may not have tapped into?
I would say we covered quite a lot of important topics, and I think my main message is take responsibility for your life and allow yourself to be your true self, to be authentic, to spread your wings and learn to fly.
Okay, on that beautiful, happy moment of learning to fly, I've been using that metaphor all day today, but meeting you, I can see you have wings. Congratulations. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you,
Absolute
Tarek.
pleasure.
It's been an honor.
Thank you. Mine too.